Steve Wood, recovered alcoholic. Welcome to Common Solution Workshop. Tonight we're talking about step one. And as usual, I'm going to start with a kind of a cool story. So one day, this young man went out to find enlightenment. And he looked for it everywhere, in the trees, in the valley. And on his journey, he came across this really wide river, seriously hopelessly across this, a large obstacle. He pondered for hours on just how to cross this barrier. And just how he's about to give up and walk away, he saw his guru on the other side. And the young man yelled to the guru, "Master, can you tell me how to get to the other side of the river?" And the guru looks up and down and ponders and looks back, looks at the sky and looks around and looks back at the young man and says, he yells back, "My son, you already are on the other side." And the moral to the story is, when we become awakened, we can be fixated so much on finding enlightenment that we start meditating, looking for it. And meditation is not about finding enlightenment, it's about growing in enlightenment. We already have it. And think about this for a second. What would happen if the sun, what became obstructed, blocked? What would happen? The world would slowly become a dark, dead planet. And the same thing happens if our spirit gets obstructed. We fall into a dark, dead, I guess you would say, insane state. And what creates the obstruction is resentments, fear, guilt, harm, sexual misconduct. And those block us from the spirit within, leading to illusion. We're separated from that spirit, separated from God. This book calls that inability to connect with God a spiritual malady. Bill Wilson created 12 simple spiritual principles to remove that malady, steps 4 through 9. When that conversion occurs, our old ideas of God are demolished. Preconceived ideas of God are demolished, and we become conscious with that spirit within. And this is the deepest we've ever gone, because now we're taking on the characteristics of that spirit. We're being restored to sanity, removing an obsession. Now we begin the journey into what I call knowing that power, or should I say, God consciousness. And, this is not a knock on organized religion or other, or religion in general, but a lot of religions paint a barrier to reach that level of enlightenment, obstacles and such. We have a great thing with the steps. And if you are religious, you work in the steps to go farther in, But here's a fact. The ego and the consciousness cannot coexist. So the ego, it thrives on duality. And a duality is a kind of thinking that says, I'm separate from everybody else, I'm separate from God, and we evaluate ourselves on a higher basis as everybody else. Where with consciousness, there's no duality, there's no walls, we're all one. And it's thinking from, I call the highest place, where you think in terms of who can I help? That altruistic aspect, a complete place of love and kindness, open heart. And, it's thinking, the type of thinking when, I don't know if I want to call it thinking, it's an, the consciousness where, within that with God, all things are possible. One with the source, called oneness. That's the opposite of duality, is oneness. And when that happens, you reach a place where you experience one of the most beautiful things of all, love. Love. And I tell people, love all, find that love. Do it for your, don't just do it for yourself, do it for your family, do it for the world. I also mention Einstein a lot, and I love some quotes by Einstein. And one of my favorites is Einstein says, "I just want to learn to think like God." And that's the oneness means. You think like your source, the consciousness. And the paramount reason that's a paramount reason for daily meditation. Not, I mean, of course, slow your thoughts down, bring them down to zilch almost. And so you can make conscious contact with that creative energy, one with the source. So step 11, we're looking about improving our conscious contact. I mentioned in step 2, how do you learn to ride a bike? By staring at the bike, you make conscious contact with the bicycle. Now we're riding the bike. Now we need to get to know what it's about. And step 11, we're improving our conscious contact with this source, whatever it may be, whatever you call it. It's step 3 required for us to make a decision to turn our will and our lives over. Now, we're making just a decision there, but now we're digging way deeper than that. We begin to discover just what that meant, just what that means. And that's where consciousness comes in. You become conscious of your will and your life over. You're not going to find that in step 3. You might, probably not step 4, probably more like 5, 6, 7, maybe 9. Now you're getting conscious with that. You're figuring things out, finding ways to improve our connection with God, of our understanding, of your understanding. So it's, living a new way of life that's very different, very, very different from our old one, just a little different. So let's go to page 85. So page 85 is going to state towards the bottom, what we really have is a daily reprieve, contingent on the maintenance and growth of our spiritual condition. So what is a reprieve? Reprieve, another word for reprieve is relief. Contingent means dependent upon. So I'm going to read back that sentence with those words. What we really have is daily relief that is dependent on the maintenance of our spiritual condition. What that means is my step 11 is dependent upon step 10, me clearing away the stuff so I can go deeper. You could just do meditation and you'll get deep, but if you start letting go and moving stuff out of the way, especially fear. So we must do step 10 and grow so we can be connected in step 11. That's the clarity. I'm going to read something out of the 12 and 12 that I always love on page 98. It says there is a direct linkage among self-examination, that's step 10, meditation, and prayer. Taken separately, these practices can bring much relief and benefit. And I love this part. But when they are logically interwoven, the result is an unshakable foundation for life. Unshakable foundation. Remember step 1, you go all the way back to the foundation. Foundation is strong, it needs to be strong. Now we're not going back to step 1, but we're looking at that foundation and make it even stronger through what we have now. So back to 85. Look what he says after that one sentence on 85 we read. Every day. So there's a time frame. Every day, you know what every day means? It doesn't say when you feel like it. Every day is a day and we must carry the vision of God's will. There's that third step aspect again, God's will into our activities. So we're bringing it to our activities. We prayed for it in 3. How can I best serve thee? Thy will, not mine, be done. God's will, not my will, be done. We already, hopefully you figured out your will is not where not your sail, so to speak, you want. So these are the thoughts which must go with us constantly. We can exercise our willpower along these lines. All we wish is proper use of the will. So let's just, a quick review of how we got to this point. So step 1 we see, first of all, one thing I want to bring up is people say, I'm doing the spiritual part of the program. Well, let's see what steps aren't spiritual, right? Let's see how we got here. Step 1, we were powerless. I say that's a huge spiritual thing to admit you're powerless. Step 2, we saw we need power. That's pretty spiritual. 3, made a decision to seek that power. 4 and 5, we discovered what blocked us from that power. That sounds pretty spiritual. 6 and 7, we cleared away the wreckage, the blockage, so we could receive the power. 8 and 9, we walk with that power and make right with others. 10, we continue to remove stuff to stay one with the power. Step 11, we get to know and connect to that power and form a relationship. That's where we're at. I'm going to put up a slide here. Step 1, sorry, we're on step 11. Step 11 is the longest step. It's not a short one. It says, first of all, comes with almost like a condition, sought. We got to seek it, seek through prayer and meditation to improve. So we're using prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we understood him. Now he gives us praying only for the knowledge of his will for us and the power to carry that out. So sought is the act of searching, looking for something. Remember, we are seeking to have God, conscious contact with God this whole way. If I'm, conscious of something, I gain a deeper understanding. I gain more awareness. So think about that. If you're improving consciousness, you're getting an improvement understanding, improve awareness. So if I have conscious contact with God, I'm always going to gain a new understanding with God and grow. So meditation is listening to God, listening, clearing away those thoughts so you can hear what you need to hear. So it's an extended, period of silent thought in order to comprehend the intuitive message we're looking for. That's within us. So empowering myself to be one with God. So prayer must be talking to God, to communicate with God by asking for guidance, strength, inspiration, direction. Who can I help? That's like the telephone. When I'm listening, when I'm talking, right? Improve means to make better. Another word for improve is recover. So conscious contact is a state of awareness when one has complete knowledge of a situation or fact. Conscious contact with God is knowledge of knowing God, not knowing about God. Most people can pass that with straight A's. This is different. This is knowledge of God. And we deepen that conscious contact through prayer and meditation, praying only for the knowledge of his will for us. His will must always come before our will. And we're praying for information, guidance. This is a 411 prayer type, not 911, where we're, I need God, help me. This is not 911 prayer. This is 411 prayer. So I always like what the founders have to say a little bit about this stuff. So we're going to look at what Dr. Bob said and look at some Oxford Group stuff because they were big into this. So Dr. Bob and the Good Old Timers on page 186 or 36, I thought was very interesting. This is what he had to say. Receiving direct guidance from God through practice of quiet time formed the heart of the Oxford Group practices. Early AA members believed in quiet time to be absolutely indispensable for sobriety. They did not consider meetings necessary to maintain sobriety. They were simply desirable. Morning devotion and quiet time, however, was a must. So they're saying that meetings were not a must to stay sober, but morning prayer meditation was. Say that in a meeting. You chase out the pitchforks, but here's the thing about it is Sam Shoemaker, the founder of the Oxford, co-founder, went to China and studied meditation, and he brought that practice in the Oxford Group, but we call it quiet time. And he taught certain aspect of meditation. But let's look at this Oxford group a little bit more. So the Oxford group, they were big in its early morning quiet time at morning and at night. And their fourth principle was listening for God's guidance and carrying it out. Quiet time. And they believed in four, almost a quiet time. And the early AA members did this very well. Study a book. Primarily, they probably did the Bible, but they, study a book, prayer, listening to God's voice, meditation, and journalizing of thoughts. And listen to this. So this is from one of the Oxford Group books, but they had conditions for meditation. And all these are very good. Take time with it. Be patient with it. Be quiet and still with it. Relax with it. Tune in with it. Listen. Be honest about every thought that comes. Have an open heart and write down what comes to mind. And here's the don'ts they said. Don't say to yourself, this thought isn't important, that this is just an ordinary thought. This cannot be guidance. This cannot be from God. This is just me thinking. And so they wrote down everything that passes through the mind. Names of people, things to do. It was how they set their day. They put it all in motion this way. Here, this is my favorite one of this part. If you are not receiving guidance or not getting any definite answers or not quiet in your mind because we're still blocked in some way. Now, these things I witnessed in recovery. The reason they're blocked is one of these things, or all of them. There is something I will not do. There's some wrong in my life I will not face. There is something I will not let go of. It's like fear and resentment. There is an amends I will not make right. There's a habit I will not give up. There's a person I will not forgive. And there's a wrong relationship in my life I will not give up. Pretty deep stuff there. Talking about fear and struggle there. Let's go back to page 85 of the big book. So now you get some cool stuff here. Really cool stuff. It says, much has been said about receiving inspiration and direction from him, and be God, who has all knowledge and power. If you have carefully followed directions as a condition, we begin to sense the flow of his spirit into us. To some extent, we become God conscious. We begin to develop this vital sixth sense. But we must go further, and that means more action. So we live in a three-dimensional world. The three-dimensional world is observed through five senses: hearing, taste, touch, smell, sight. And most people will never know anything beyond those five senses. And here's my question. This is something to ponder, right? My question is your sight always correct? Is your hearing always perfect? Is your sense of smell always right? Have your taste buds ever fooled you? Have you ever felt something, have you ever felt something and thought it was one thing when it was another thing? You were wrong. My question is, you think about that, but there's a sense that's never lets us down, and that is a sixth sense or fourth dimension of existence, which is God consciousness, right? It's always correct and perfect. God consciousness, the kindergarten way to look at it is the awareness of higher self or God. But it's a part of us that is capable of exceeding these animal instincts, the seven pieces of self that form the ego. So it's capable of exceeding that, meaning we are guided and driven by God rather than those instincts, giving us the ability to make sane decisions. So it is the capacity to be able to surpass whatever is bothering you, hurting you, maybe killing you, but you feel the strength to take on whatever, anything, right? Anything. You feel the strength in you. It gives you the power and ability to understand and know, right? So in life, we have three dimensions: height, length, width. Three dimensions, that's three physical dimensions, 3 dimensions of time, past, present, and future. 3 dimensions of thought, perception, three mental dimensions: thought, perception, feelings. And then we have, I already have it open, 3 dimensions of life. Now, the center is self-will. That's our instincts. That's the pieces that form this higher thought of our self, ego, that edging God out. You see how it edges it out? But the center. And then there's the mental and emotions. That's the 3rd ring. And then the physical world. So the thing is the center, that's our instincts. And when people are agreeing with us, when we're living on instincts, so living, one with the ego, we'll call it, and follow those demands, our instincts are in harmony with other people. And we're kind, considerate, generous, patient, even modern self-sacrificing, like the book says. And our mental emotions are clear when our instincts, are not in harmony with our, so when our mental emotions, I'm not going to be in harmony with other people when it's not there. So it affects my mental and emotions. And when our instincts are run riot, we're not in harmony with others. We are mean, egotistical, selfish, dishonest. So if I'm clear, everyone's agreeing with me, life's great. But if not, I'm mean, egotistical, selfish, dishonest. A collision. Remember, it says we're always in collision with something or somebody. Harm, resentment, fear, self-destruction, spiritual malady. So let's look at that. What instincts run riot looks like: resentment, guilt, self-pity, obsessions. That's the alcohol. That's kind of thrown there as a bonus. Depression, misery, jealousy. So these are both inward. So that's what it looks like. And what happens if I take this malady, this sickness, this realm of thinking to the outside world? Well, the outside world, right, is in the outside world, I have significant others, family, friends, others, just strangers, money, cars, coworkers, education, church, and so forth. Oh, I'm gonna move this thing out of the way. Hold on. There it goes. And shelter, jobs, law, sex, children, family, all that stuff, right? And what happens when I live this way, and I'm also an addict or alcoholic? I'm going to lose my significant others. I'm not going to have the same friends I should have. I'm going to rip people off. I'm going to find ways to make money in my own way, hustle. Probably lose my car, donate my car to the impound yard. Probably not going to have a job. You're not going to have education. You're not going to have church because it's not going to be the cool place to go. Material things aren't going to really mean anything to you because you have this obsession. You're going to probably be, sleeping under a bridge or a box somewhere or back of your car, unless you can hustle some money really good. You're not going to have a job. The law is going to come after you. You're going to find interesting people to have sex with. Your children aren't going to talk to you, and your family is going to be estranged. That's what it looks like. This is what instincts run wild look like, right? So when we live on instincts, our mental and emotionals go out, we destroy everything in the physical world. Well, and that's what we lose. So that's instincts run riot. This is the spiritual malady. And this is my thinking, my emotions, these thoughts lead to a path of destruction. And even more important, when we drink, the mental emotions calm down temporarily, but the obsession is going to make us go against everything why we shouldn't do it. All this stuff happens. And the thing is, let's see what we need to do. Let's see how this plays out. So we do step 1, 2, and 3. I'm going to take action, right? First of all, I turn my life over to care of God, make a decision. Haven't done anything yet. But then I do 4 through 7, right? And you notice the difference? When I take action, I knock down that barrier. I knock down that wall. That ring is gone, right? With 4 through 7, you see what happens you know, you see that some of the mental stuff is gone and some remains, like a little bit of fear remains, a little restless, a little hatred remains, depression, obsession might remain a little, you know, still there. Self-pity, that's just because I've only gone through 427, because some of these, especially the guilt, is not going to go through until I bring this and make amends. So what's going to happen is I'm going to do steps 8 and 9. See, I bring that, and you see that ring's gone. And you know, look what happens when we make amends. Notice, you know, that ring is gone. And when I do that, well, I went ahead of myself. This stuff is still there, but look what happens when I make amends. All that stuff goes away. All that stuff is gone. You know, I mean, notice all that stuff. And what happens is the awakening. That's what I'm left with. There's no rings, right? This is the beginning of oneness with God. And so we're left with God. How do I get rid of the last ring? 10, 11, 12, or we call the fourth dimension of existence. That is, this book is talking about when it says stay with God, this happens. It's not that hard. It's not, this is about as easy to follow as a chocolate chip cookie recipe, as long as you don't leave out the chocolate chips, you know. But when we stay in that form of consciousness, harmony doesn't come from the physical world anymore, or my instincts. God harmonized, my spirit harmonized to me. But what's that spirit? It's the real you. It's the real you are. You know, anyone here is there anyone here does not want that? You know, let's take it one step further. Let's take it one step further and look at it like this. You know, unity, service, recovery, 11, 10, 11, 12. Unity, 11, 12, fourth dimension of existence. Remember when I explained this before, the circle means infinity, ongoing. There's no end to the circle. It keeps going. It keeps going. Triangle is a pyramid, right? A foundation built on a foundation, built on a foundation, built on a foundation. That's why pyramids still stand today. They're foundations built on foundations. You know, that's what it is. This is what we can all have. Oops. I think sensitive. You know, lots of people in recovery. Here's the truth. I'm going to be blunt here. Believe like there's like these two houses we're supposed to live in recovery. One house is the my thinking house. You know, the resentments and the fears and all that stuff, right? The other house is the fourth dimension house. And what people tend to think, when things go wrong, we leave the my thinking house and we go to the fourth dimension house and just chill for a while so we can go back to my thinking house. And they call that the pink cloud. That's why they say, you know, the pink cloud goes away, because there's only one house, the fourth dimension house. And we've always had that. It's now we found it. There's not two houses. There's not my thinking house and the fourth. No, it's not this balancing thing. We're not doing, remember, step 10 is not behavior modification. We're not trying to modify our behavior, you know, a bad result for a better, you know, oh, I'm feeling better now. I'm cool. You know, we do 10, 11, 12 to have peace in the endless pink cloud, if you want to call it that. It's called the fourth dimension. And that's the thing is, this book says common sense becomes uncommon sense. It means our common sense is no longer common with a 5-sense person with 5 senses. I mean, we have a 6th sense, and you go up in front of a 5-sense person and you get up there and you talk about your spiritual life and talking about, they're gonna look at you and go, who the hell is this guy? And he's crazy. I love when people call me crazy. That just means that they're, you know, they don't understand you. You know, but discover this intuition that only God consciousness, you know, discover it can bring you. You can see, feel, and smell with your spiritual senses. And one thing about it is, when you truly have it, you never question its words or messages. You know, we use the inner resource to recognize all the possibilities. So, you know, we let it guide you to where we need to be. take us to on spiritual roads we thought did not exist. We're not accustomed to take us to those, who need our knowledge for help. And think about, if you think you're, could be a good sponsor, just wait what step 11 makes you, that it's kind of like Clark Kent ripping his shirt open. I got some information to tell you, that's the thing. If you don't do step 11, it's really hard to transmit this stuff over. Let's go to page 85. And it says, we begin to develop the sixth sense, vital sixth sense. We must go further. That means more action, more action, more action. So, still waiting for the part where it tells us to take a day off, right? So that's what it says. So step 11 suggests prayer and meditation. So they're telling us now we're entering step 11. It doesn't say step, inventory, step 10. No, we left step 10. We're looking at 11 right now. So don't let, I'm going to bring that up in a minute. So step 11 suggests we shouldn't be shy in this matter of prayer. Better men than we have been using it constantly. What does constantly means? Continually, without interruption. Practice. It works. So here's two conditions for meditation. If we have the proper attitude and work at it, that's all we need. Proper attitude and work at it. It would be easy to be vague on this matter, yet we believe we can make some valuable suggestions. The suggestion is a 24-hour plan. This is a great plan to do in your first, 3 or 4 years. But what happens is you're going to adapt to more questions than this, and you're going to adapt to a bigger. People will say, "Oh, my fourth dimension has grown." Your fourth dimension is the same size. You just see more the longer you're in this. Your eyes open wider. I used to have a teacher in school who used to say, "Now don't do anything bad. I got eyes behind my head." You kind of get eyes all around your head and stuff with this spiritual stuff, because you sense things. So the first one I'm going to look at is called the night review, and many use this review to get rid of defects. That's not what it's for. It's not inventory. It doesn't say inventory here at all. It says review, two different things. 4 through 9 is how we get rid of defects. The 24-hour plan is not step 10. We just got past step 10. Don't call it inventory, and don't tell your responsees it's inventory, because it's not. It's a 24-hour plan. It's to look at stuff so you can write down. And so these questions I look at for myself is prior to meditation, to help bring me to the awareness and see if there's anything I need to look at. This is great at the beginning when you first start this. And when I do my night review, my 10-step sheet is always near me. It's always near me. So it says, when we retire at night, means, another word for retire would be to withdraw, to calm down, to retreat. So another word for retire. So when we retreat at night, interesting word, we constructively review our day. So constructively means is something we use to analyze, to find improvements. So like if you're working at, let's say, if you're a pipe fitter, and you got to analyze what you did afterwards and make sure it's done right. Maybe something needs to be improved, because you want positive results. So construction is the opposite of destructive. And what destructive means to disapprove, discredit, criticize, and be negative. A lot of people live on destructive rather than constructive. So when we retire at night, we constructively review our day. Here's 4 great questions. Were we resentful? We know what that means. Were we selfish? Ooh, it's not like it used to be, but it's still there. Were we dishonest? Did I lie, cheat, steal, deceive someone? Was I afraid? If you answer yes to any of these questions, write it down. See, otherwise, if you don't write it down, you're not going to know what started it. You're not going to see where you're to blame. Do we owe an apology? The way I look at it here is, an apology and amends are oil and water, totally different things. Step 9 is not an apology. But if I owe someone an apology, I need to ask myself, well, do I owe an amends? Do I need to write this down? Have we kept something to ourselves, which should be discussed with another person at once? So remember, step 10 is 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. It's not just 4. Like a lot of people think step 10 is just inventory. It's also discussing with another. It's just a great way. Oh, I got all this stuff written down. I haven't talked to my sponsor yet. I mean, So there's that question. Were we kind and loving towards all? Not just kind and loving towards all. All makes it a whole different universe, right? Is that possible? Be kind and loving towards all? Remember, all things are possible when you're in God's universe. Look at these. Here's some great journalizing questions. It's a simple question. This is kindergarten. What could you have done better? Everyone answers that question differently. Were we thinking of ourselves most of the time? It's a yes or no question. Or were we thinking of what we could do for others, what we could pack into the stream of life? I love how he puts the or on there, because that's where we want to be. But here's a warning. We must be careful not to drift into worry, fear, remorse, guilt, whatever, or morbid reflection. Morbid reflection, that is, we know what that is. I mean, picking something apart. For that would diminish our usefulness to others. We spent too much time, in fear, in guilt, and picking people apart. I'm not here to pick people apart anymore. I'm here to pick myself apart in a constructive way, like this book outlines, not my old way. But he always brings us to others. And after making our review, we ask, this is a prayer, we pray for God's forgiveness and inquire what measures should be taken. Now, this goes to more of a Christian slant there, asking for God's forgiveness. So you can put whatever you want there. After making a review, we thank God or whatever you need to put there. It's open for interpretation. And so after you answer the questions, you pray and meditate on how to fix things, so you get the answers on how to fix things. And this is all why I say your first 4 years, you're retraining the mind. The night review should be done every night. And we need, for anyone in here that, starts getting, this is not a bad thing. We start getting stupid with our thoughts and the decisions we make. My question is, are you doing your meditation? And I would say if I got paid $100 for every time someone said, no, I'm not doing it, I'd be a rich man. But that way, it shouldn't take long to do this. This is a companion to step 10. It's a backup. Morning intentions. So we're on age 7. So what's an intention? And there's a great book, if you can buy it, by Wayne Dyer, called The Power of Intention. But these are our intentions for the day. And it's an ideal or a goal or a plan, my plan for the day, something we intend to carry out, right? On awakening, let's think. So he's telling us to think. He didn't say let's plan. Let's think about 24 hours ahead. I think there's a pause right there. Take time and think about it. It does not say in the morning. It doesn't say in the morning there either. It says upon awakening. Don't get up and, brush your teeth if you want, but don't get up and, this is before you get dressed and everything. So when we wake up, we gather our thoughts. I hear people say, I do my stuff around 3 hours later, but then it's not in awakening anymore. We think about 24 hours ahead. We consider our plans for the day. So we lay out our spiritual plans for the day, on, making amends, sponsoring, and also our physical world plans, meetings, talking to someone at work, driving the kids to school, whatever. You put it all out there together and you interwove it, and the spiritual plans drive those ones. So before we begin, we ask God to direct our thinking, especially that we be divorced. Separated, especially asking that we be divorced from self-pity, that's resenting ourself, dishonesty, lying to people, cheating people, and self-seeking motives. That means carrying out my selfish ends. So those are some pretty powerful stuff in there. So in this prayer, we're asking to separate ourselves from resenting ourselves, to being dishonest, and carrying out harm. Under these conditions, we can employ our mental faculties with assurance, for after all, God gave us brains to use. Use them correctly, right? Our thought life will be placed on a much higher plane when our thinking is cleared of wrong motives. Why? Because the consciousness with God. In thinking about the day we may face indecision, We may not be able to determine which course to take. That's what happens when we're in indecision. We ask, there's another prayer. We pray to God for inspiration and intuitive thought or decision. So inspiration is an idea that provokes one to take action. Divine inspiration comes from within. So intuitively is the ability to understand something immediately without the need of conscious reasoning. It's just, you just know it. And we know the decision is a key part of the human thought process. And now, closely look at something and, analyze it, gather facts, I know which it takes. So basically it's saying here, if we are stuck in fear, find the inspiration to make the right decision. What all that means is take action, move through it. Just preparing our minds for meditation. Here's the meditation part. We relax and take it easy. We don't struggle. We're often surprised that the right answers will come after we try this for a while. So the biggest condition of meditation is we try it for a while, not twice, not 3 times. How many of us have tried meditation 2 or 3 times or a week and said it's not for me? Try it for 60 days and see what happens. Just do it for 60 days. We never know what swimming is like until we jump into the water. Or your parent throws you in, like they did me. But we never know what meditation is like until we sincerely try it. And every person who has tried it with honesty and finds that they find that power more than human power inside of them that they've always had. And but you have to be patient with it. One of my favorite stories is a Buddhist analogy, and it's this guy, and he goes and he plants a bamboo tree in the ground. And his master tells him, water it for 6 years and it will grow. See, the bamboo tree, if you have to water it for 6 years and you're not going to see anything with it, you just have to trust it's there. And then right around the 6-year mark, 80-foot tall tree comes up in 6 months. What's it doing? It's preparing itself into the earth and gathering the strength. And that's what's happening to us in meditation. We may not know what we're doing with it, but we're getting strong inside is what we're doing. So here are the 11-step promises when we do prayer and meditation. And these are absolutely awesome. What used to be a hunch or occasional inspiration gradually becomes a working part of the mind. So what's a hunch? It's basically just a foreshadowing from our intuition, so an impression that something is true, right? Occasional means occurring from time to time. So inspiration is an idea that comes from within that arouses a desire to take action, like I said earlier. So in a nutshell, occasional truth you heard once in a while when you're doing something wrong, maybe kicking in someone's door or something like that, it's not going to be occasional anymore. It's going to happen regular, meaning you have daily inspiration daily. Thanks to 429, we've removed the spiritual malady. Remember where God is deep down within, and the illusion we're separated from God is gone and turns into union, oneness with God. We're living, awakening daily. So because of the daily meditation and the spirit and the mind merge, or do they? Or you just become aware of that it's always been there. Basically, your thinking becomes one with God's thinking. Self-centeredness dissolves, and you become selfless. Complete shift from what's in to me to love and service for others. And that's why it's an awakening. Only the steps can do that. So in this state, the oneness with God, you feel like you can accomplish things organically, naturally. Think about this. An embryo does not fight to become a baby. They turn into a baby effortlessly. It's doing what it's programmed to do. Birds fly south in the winter, north in the spring, effortlessly. They're doing what they're programmed to do. Caterpillar goes into the cocoon, is transferred into something more beautiful than they can imagine, the butterfly, effortlessly, does not fight it. It's doing what it's programmed to do. Remember we talked about the acorn before? It looks like nothing like image and likeness of its creator, a gigantic oak tree. It falls to the ground and it gets enough sunlight, enough, its roots get the right soil. It moves just to get enough water, has all the information inside. It does not fight to become an oak tree. It turns into what it's programmed to be and turns an image and likeness of its creator. Well, what makes a flower bloom? Is it sunshine? Is it water? Is it light? Maybe it's the good gardener that comes by, the green thumb guy. Maybe it's something, maybe it's all those things, but something even more, way more. Some type of inner consciousness, something within the flower that causes it to bloom. They're not beautiful because of their vibrant colors. They're beautiful because they're unbelievably happy for no reason. They don't seek approval of the other flowers, or dislike the other flowers, or pick them apart, or talk shit about them. They do not fight, compete. They coexist with each other, the other flowers, and they thrive peacefully in the garden. They never question anything. All they do is follow the guidance within, and they bloom by following what they're programmed to do. So all these life forms are the ultimate symbol of spirituality and growth, the unlimited God's potential. Are we any different? We have all the information within to survive. We have a program within us to survive. Meditation is simply connecting to that inner program, quieting our mind in silence so we can know we have that information to follow and go the rest of our day following it. Call it downloading it, so we can act upon it and live life effortlessly. So I see an acorn. I don't see an acorn. I see an oak tree. It's within the acorn. And when I see a caterpillar, I see a butterfly. So when I see a seed, I see the flower. When I see you, I see God. Meaning, if we trust and follow our inner program, we too can transform into the image and likeness of our Creator. See, it's that love seed within yourself is born and sprouts effortlessly. So my question to you, when you go to bed tonight, ask yourself, do I have union with God? It's not about knowing about God, it's knowing God. It's not about acting spiritual, it's about living spiritual. It's not about, looking out here. It's, for answers, it's looking within daily, being one with our thinking. So either with God or away from God. God either is or he isn't. It's oneness with God. Follow your program. Let's see what else it says. What used to be a hunch or occasional inspiration gradually becomes a working part of the mind. So here's the promises. It's also a warning here. Being still experienced and having just made conscious contact with God, it is not probable we're going to be inspired at all times. We might pay for this presumption in all sorts of absurd actions and ideas. So presumption means jumping to conclusions, theory, why? Because we're inexperienced. It's going to happen all the time for the first few years. Nothing personal, this is the way it is, the way our minds work. Remember, we're retraining the mind and we're pushing this stuff out. So, all it means is you need to keep going to step 10 and 11, the solid foundation for life. Keep making your amends. Sponsor. Don't drag your feet. And it's not up to us to do this stuff. We're supposed to do it. I mean, you say you're not ready to sponsor, ask God if you're ready to sponsor. You'll know. It says, nevertheless, we find our thinking as time passes be more on the plane of inspiration. We come to rely upon it. Wow. Come to rely upon it. So the more inspiration we receive, the more action we take, we keep going. We usually conclude our period of meditation with a prayer that we've shown all through the day, what the next step should be, that we be given whatever we need to take care of such problems. We ask another prayer, a lot of prayers in here. We ask especially for freedom from self-will, and be careful to make no requests for ourselves only. We may ask for ourselves, however, it's a condition if others will be helped. They're not paying for the Ferrari, whatever. We are careful never to pray for our own selfish ends. Many of us had wasted a lot of time doing that. It doesn't work. You can usually see why. If it worked, you wouldn't be sitting here. I like that prayer because, it's it keeps it, I like that prayer, but I like spontaneous prayer, like the third step prayer in that form. It says the circumstances where we ask our wives or friends to join us in morning meditation. That's always kind of cool. If we belong to religious domination, requires definite morning devotion, we attend to that also. If not members of religious bodies, we sometimes select and memorize a few prayers which emphasize the principles we have been discussing. There are many helpful books also. I got a lot of them over here, and they keep getting bigger and bigger because I switched up new things. But suggestions about, these may be obtained from one's priest, minister, or rabbi, or guru, or wherever you go. Be quick to see that these religious people, or say spiritual people, are right. Make use of what they have to offer. I went to the Buddhist Monastery when I, about a year, 6 months sober, to take just their basic meditation classes. Let's look at what else it says about meditation. Let's go to page 69 real quick. We're going to look at some other pages. All right, 69. In meditation, we ask God what we should do about each specific matter. Here's the condition. The answers will come if we want it. That's one of the conditions of meditation. The right answers come if you want it. Now we're going to jump a little bit more to page 83. More morning stuff here. Look what it says, 83. So we clean house with the family. Step 9. Pray each morning in meditation that our Creator help show us the way of patience, tolerance, kindness, and love. If you're meditating, that will come naturally because you're just bringing it out. 4 more things to pray for: patience, kindness, tolerance, and love. Go to the end of this part of the book, 164, and this is vital information right here. It says God will tell you God will tell you all that you need to know. Ask God in your morning meditation when you do each day for the man who's still sick. Here's the conditions. The answers will come if your house is in order. If you're not doing inventory, but obviously you cannot trend something you haven't got. See to it that your relationship with him is right, and great answers will come to pass for you and countless others. This is a great fact this book carries. Let's go back to 87. There's a good information there. Now we're going to look at during the day. I never understood why AA, they pass out like a little pocket thing and it says morning and at night. But there's another part as we go through the day. So the third part is as we go through the day. As we go through the day, we pause when agitated. That means restless, irritable, or discontent, or doubtful, feeling of it, skepticism, fear. Another word for doubtful is a French word. It comes from the meaning, which means fear. So doubtful is fear. As we go through the day, we pause when agitated or doubtful and ask, here's a prayer for the right thought or action. For me, that's just closing my mind for a minute. Pause means to stop the action. Very simple direction here. When angry, pause, stop, and ask, pray. There's no greater gift than the pause button. To pause before we're angry, to not get the last word in, to not always be right. Pausing before being, saying something stupid or taking some action is the ultimate spiritual anger management tool. It's a simple pausing. That's all you need to know, But living in God consciousness, we're not driven by anger or fighting things anymore. Otherwise, we're not there. So we think before we speak, not speak what we think. Think before you speak, not just blur out words. Think about it. So before you open your mouth and say something really harmful, ask yourself, are my words true? Are my words kind? Are my words necessary? Are my words true? Are my words kind? Are they necessary? Right? If I'm doing step 11, meditating daily, that should happen automatically. Right? Look what else it says. We are constantly continuing, reminding ourselves we're no longer running the show. humbly saying to ourselves many times each day, thy will be done. There's again, that's a simple mantra. You know, mantra is like a chant part of meditation. That's a great mantra right there. Thy will be done. Simple. It's, you know, to aid the concentration of meditation. It's like emptying it out. By, you know, by following that during the day, we enter more promises. We're then in a much less danger of excitement, fear, anger, worry, self-pity, or foolish decisions. So if we follow these directions, it puts me in the ideal mindset to see just how powerful these promises are right here. Let's look at the opposite of those, right? Because they're saying, you know, worry, self-pity, or foolish decisions, anger. What we're really looking here is, you know, is the opposite of those. Peace, courage, calmness, joy, happiness, sane decisions. We, you know, bring those words into your quiet time. More promises. We become much more efficient. That means more productive. We get stuff done. You know, we stay in on God's will. You know, sticking with our commitment we made in step 3. More promises. We do not tire so easily. If we're not burning up foolish energy we did and we're trying to arrange to show ourselves. It's, you can have the greatest day, all of a sudden something happens and you burn up all your energy. A big part of the spiritual life is having high positive energy. Why? Because positive energy is a fuel for meditation. If I'm burning up positive energy because of fear, resentment, self-pity, foolish decisions, my energy level is going to be low, making it more hard and challenging to focus when I need to, especially when I'm stuck in that stuff. And I won't get God's guidance and directions. But if it's calm, positive, sane, meditation is a powerful vehicle it needs to be. Very powerful. We alcoholics are undisciplined, so that God discipline us in a simple way we just outlined. So it's simple. Meditation is a tool to let God discipline us, and spiritual discipline develops us into, you know, into knowing the spirit, so we can follow that inner program. Simple. So we need the intuition only God consciousness can give us, and it's that, you know, the inner resource where, you know, infinite possibilities. We need to let it guide us where we need to be and let it take us to spiritual roads we're not accustomed to, out of our comfort zone, stuff like that. I'm going to show you guys the spiritual workbook really quick. And this is something that's really good your first few years. If you give this a sponsor, it works really well. I showed this to you guys last week. I'm going to race to this part, but this is like, I put up in our WhatsApp group there. And it looks just like a 4-step for step 10, but I decided to go with something with step 11. And this is a simple like checkoff sheet. This is not really anything but just to get you situated your first maybe few months. But today's date, opening prayer, morning intention, readings, I do all this stuff, check it off during the day, afternoon, meditation, opening, you know, at night. This is, so as the morning intentions here written out and it's personalized, it's the same thing in the book, but it says I, and it's talking to you more. Same thing during the day. And then we retire at night. You know, was I resentful? Was I selfish? But what I created was something that seems to work really well for people when they first start. And this is like a checkoff thing. This is just for your nightly review. You put the date on there. So we put January 9th. I mean, February 9th, right? And then was I resentful today? I'm going to say, no. Was I selfish today? Yes. Was I dishonest? Yes. Was I afraid today? No. Do I owe an apology? Yes. You know, I cut something myself, you know, was I kind of loving towards all? Yes or no? It's just to get yourself into doing it. And what could I have done better? You write it out. Simple. Guys will use this. Well, the men and women I sponsor will use this for the first few weeks, and they just develop it. Some don't use it at all. It's just a cool tool, right? And there's a bunch of them in there. And this is something else you can check out later, but it's a my will versus God's will thing. It's not really part of this at all, but it's really to see where you're at. So you write 10% of the day I was angry, you fold it in half, and then that means 90% of the day I've been calm. You can kind of see where you're at. It's good for your first year in the program, first couple of years to see. But I'll be putting this up in the WhatsApp group. Anyone else wants it, let me know. That's what that looks like. Very cool stuff. So, commit to practicing 11th each morning and at night, and find that ideal place, a quiet place where you can be down alone, where you won't be disturbed, a place where, where you only use prayer and meditation. It's important to always use the same place and as often as possible. And, one of the keys of that is the proper mindset. And that's what step 10 brings us. But I want to go over, I came up many years ago, what's called the 6 A's I have with God. And so these are 6 conditions that I need to have. Number 1, A, is attitude. I need to always maintain and grow my attitude towards God and other people. Right? Then the next A is action. Faith without works is dead, right? We know that. The next A is asking, proper prayer. The next A is answers, meditation, right? Listening for the answers. The next A is awakened. Awaken the consciousness of your original nature, the image and likeness of your creator. Stay there. And the last A is awareness. So very simple. Attitude, action, asking, answers, awakened, awareness. And those really bring you, get straight A's on that. Many call their connection with God a relationship. I like to go deeper and almost look at it as like a friendship, because it's getting to know myself. And friendship is, with God is the essence of my life, I say. I cannot exist without it. It's the safest place I can go. I can pull up a chair and sit back and know God's listening about my deepest thoughts. What I love about the friendship with God is very calm. It's a very comforting thing, just a sense of his presence when I know inside me is there, and I can sit there and think about it. I don't think about it every day. Because in essence, it's always been there. I'm just getting to let it be free. Letting myself free is what I'm doing. But it guides me to see the truth and enable me to see love in all things. That's the beauty of it. God's been there during my hardest times and takes me to places of peace when things aren't going great. But the more friendship with God I grow on a daily basis. But another way I like to mention is relationship with God is abiding. And we heard the term abide by the rules, obey. And that can scare people, obey with God. But it also means something else. It means to continue a particular or grow a condition. Abiding means as well, to follow God's will and live with God. So abiding has five conditions. 5 conditions: connection, listening, following, dependence, and continuance. Connection, listening, follow, dependence, and continuance. And the results of abiding is you don't really want what you want anymore. You want what God wants. And, the Christianity likens abiding to God is the grapevine and we are the branches. The Buddhists say abide in your true self, not the ego, as in, obey the word, not the ego, and, the Tao, abide in the peace that flows through you. So abide with it. As I said earlier, we're pre-programmed to depend upon God. We're not hardwired to depend on anything else. And when we are in that spiritual malady, we become dependent on other people and we end up hurting people, being resentful. We need a relationship with God, which nurtures our relationship with others. So it's through the relationship with God that we can truly have relations with others. It's like a retraining thing. So without relations with God, our relationship with others is incomplete. And meditation comes with 2 conditions for success. 1, stay committed each morning at night, 10 to 20 minutes at a time. That's the first condition. The other condition is always do inventory. This keeps my heart clear of resentments, fears, and guilt. And I said this before a little bit, but I'm going to say it deeper. I don't know if people got it, but choose a sacred place. a quiet place where you always can go to. You know, it's cool to go outside when you have time and it's weather's beautiful, but if in your house, go to the same place. You reserve a place just for prayer. You have your notebook wherever if you want to do that. But sit upright, sit quietly, speak, listen, clear the mind. Write down what comes to your words afterwards. Connect the deepest part of you. Because this is what I know is when you're in sync with your conscious awareness, the breathing, everything slows down a little bit. Breathing slows down. You feel more healthier. Maybe when you're like or when you're in the consciousness of meditation, you feel the tingling in your spine. Maybe the love in your heart gets a little bigger. A moment when you know things are close to you and grow. I went to I don't have my cup in here. Here it is. I went to a Buddhist guy one time and listened to him speak. And he talked about most people, like, I don't know how well you can see it, but there's water in here, right? And this is the way he explained it. He held it up and he said, water, be still. Water, be still. So I'm going to put it over here. It's still not still. Water, be still. How do I make the water still? I put it down. Just like our mind. And it's still not still. But after a minute or so, it's still. It's, that's the thing. That's the thing. There's another one too is, why do we clear the mind? Because here's what we do. All these problems come to us. I'll tell you the story. Samurai goes to the guru. And the guru says to him, what are you here for? And who are you? And he tells this long story of being bragdosis in this. And what is the samurai, the guru does is he's pouring water, a big pitcher of water into a small cup. And what happens? The cup overflows. And finally the samurai goes, what are you doing? You're spilling the water. And he goes, this represents you. We overfill our cup so much. We want to channel. Speaking of that, let's go into meditation. So I'm going to do a little guided meditation here. I'm going to turn down the lights a little bit, best I can. Just center our minds. Sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we understood him. Praying only for knowledge as well for that and the power carried out. So the most important thing of life is to figure out who we really are beyond our name, beyond our thoughts, beyond our body, beyond the life we live. What makes that happen? What intelligence? What regulates your heart, your sleep cycles? What keeps you growing? That tells you what you're doing may not be right. That brings you to the right place. By dedicating yourself to this intelligence, you discover the most beautiful thing you could ever have, a clear channel with yourself. What does it look like? Does yours look like love? The spirit of forgiveness, harmony, faith, joy. Let's think about that for a minute. Let God demonstrate to us what he can do. We ask him to remove our fear and to direct our attention to what he would have us be. Lord, make me a channel of thy peace. Where there is hatred, let me be love. Where there is wrong, let me be the spirit of forgiveness. Where there is discord, let me be harmony. Where there is error, let me be truth. Where there is doubt, let me be faith. Where there is despair, let me be hope. Where there is darkness, let me be light. Where there is sadness, let me be joy. Lord, grant that I may seek rather to comfort, to be comforted, to understand and to be understood, to love and to be loved. For it is by self-forgetting that one finds, it is by giving and receive, by forgiving that one is forgiven, and by dying we awaken to eternal life. That is dying to our old ideas, who we thought we were, our old beliefs, our identity, and winding up awakening to the internal place, spirit we are, where miracles happen. The ordinary is extraordinary. Infinite unity, love over everything else. Peace. We connect with the deepest intelligence. This place we do not need to get closer to. It's deep down within us. So know this. When we speak, God listens. When we listen, God speaks. When we obey, God acts. When the spirit is healthy, the mind is healthy. When the mind is healthy, the body is healthy. When the spirit is healthy, all of me is healthy. Leave with this question. Am I my body, or does my body belong to me? Am I mine, or am I my mind, or does my mind belong to me? What is that me?